around us. Now we seek his blessing and guidance upon this House of Assembly, convened to receive the budget proposal for the ensuing year. We thank you, O Lord, for the enlightenment which you have given to the Minister of Finance and the public servants who assisted in drafting the projected income and expenditure for the year ahead. We pray that the proposal is approved. We boost and revitalize the flagging economy of our land. We commend our political leaders and the people of our beloved land into the hands of the Almighty. Grant that in all times it may be our aim to work together in unity so that God's purpose for our lives and for our country may be fulfilled. We entrust this afternoon proceedings in his hand, O God, and pray that all things transpire according to your divine will and purpose, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain. Good afternoon, members. You may be seated.
Confirmation of minutes. Minutes of proceedings of the 6th meeting of the 2nd session of the 12th Anguilla House of Assembly.
Are there any amendments to the minutes? If there are no amendments, can someone move that the minutes be accepted as circulated, please? I'm just going to ask for a timeout, member, so that IT rectifies our mics. It is? Okay, thank you. The member is recognized.
And then speaker rise. So, second.
To move.
The move, so.
Yes.
The minutes be accepted as well.
Is there someone to second, please? Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that the minutes be accepted as circulated. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Minutes accepted as circulated. The Assembly will now sit in 5 minutes recess for IT to work out our technical problems. Thank you, members. The Assembly will now resume its sitting.
Oath of allegiance to new members? None. Announcements by the direction of the Speaker?
Good afternoon again. Good afternoon and welcome also to the gallery. It's always good to have members of the public with us. We don't see you often enough. So we welcome you at any time that you're available. We hope that we will be seeing more of you this new year. So welcome once again. I'm going to ask all if we can stand and observe a moment's silence in respect of the memory of the passing of the late Reverend Joseph Lloyd, who was the chaplain of the 9th House of Assembly under direction of the former Speaker, David Carty. So I'm going to ask for that moment of silence now, please. That moment starts now. Thank you, members. May his memory be a blessing.
Questions? None. Government statements on recent developments? None. Papers? None. Reports from committees? None. Petitions? None. Government notices? None. Private members' notices? None. Motions? None. Personal explanations? None. Other business, government business? A bill for appropriation 2022 Act 2022, first reading.
The member for Island Harbor is recognized.
Good afternoon, Madam Speaker, members of the House, members of the gallery. I beg leave, Madam Speaker, to acknowledge in the gallery the presence of my wife, Marjorie, and my son, Colin, and my brother and his wife, Griffin, and Joanne visiting from Canada. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that a bill shortly entitled A Bill for Appropriation 2022, Act 2022, be read a first time.
Madam Speaker, I rise to second.
It has been moved and seconded that a bill shortly entitled A Bill for Appropriations 2022 Act 2022 be read a first time. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. I call upon the clerk to read the bill a first time.
An act to provide for the services of the government of Anguilla for the financial year ending the 31st day of December, 2022.
Madam Speaker, I rise to beg that a bill shortly entitled A Bill for Appropriation 2022, Act 2022, be read a second time. Madam Speaker, I wish you, the members of the House, the clerk and staff, chaplain, persons seated in the gallery, the public servants, including the permanent secretaries, comptroller, principal assistant secretary in the Ministry of Finance, who has been instrumental in making this presentation possible. People of Anguilla everywhere, I wish a happy, safe, and prosperous new year. Madam Speaker, the theme for last year's budget was restoring Anguilla's economy innovatively and sustainably. This year, I am inspired to present this 2022 budget to this House under the theme, Advancing Through Adversity, Restoring Prosperity. Madam Speaker, adversity is a difficult or unpleasant situation, but it is one of the most powerful forces in life. It can bring out your best or your worst. It is up to you. Adversity provides the opportunity to believe, to revitalize your commitment to what you want to achieve, and reassess what you're willing to sacrifice to make it happen. It builds character, learning, resilience, creativity, and conviction. It teaches us to embrace challenges and grow from overcoming them. When one is faced with adversity, one has two options. One, let the obstacles overwhelm and keep you from pursuing all you were destined to accomplish. Or two, march forward, fight harder, push past the seemingly impossible circumstances, turn adversity into triumph. Prosperity, Madam Speaker, is a condition of being successful, flourishing, or thriving. In other words, economic well-being. Prosperity enables people to gain meaningful employment, pursue opportunities, live productive lives, and build a future for themselves and their families. It reduces vulnerability, enhances resilience, and makes one economically stronger. But, Madam Speaker, development and growth must not be a zero-sum game. One person's advancement must not be at the expense of another's. Shared prosperity is the order of the day. Madam Speaker, when we took office on the 30th of June 2020, Anguilla's financial position and economic situation was as bleak as the photograph representing Anguilla on page 43 of the 2012 White Paper, that of a lone cactus struggling to survive on a barren, rocky surface. That was depicting Anguilla. From the prayer we heard from the chaplain today, which was a prayer from the Reverend Joseph Lloyd, done in the previous House, he also talked about a flagging economy. Madam Speaker, the first day, June the 30th, 2020, when I met Governor Tim Foy, and he showed me the financial situation in Anguilla, I said to him, Governor, it seems that Anguilla economy has just been skimming the surface and most times underwater. He said, that is true. And that is the economy that we inherited, Madam Speaker. We inherited a distressed economy still recovering from Hurricane Irma and stalled by the coronavirus pandemic, which we have stabilized, if not restored. Restoring the economy requires advancing through adversity. The borders were closed on March the 20th of 2020, and our main industry, tourism, was at a standstill. Unemployment was at an all-time high. Madam Speaker, there's much wisdom in the African proverb that a roaring lion kills no game. Advancing through adversity required developing an increased appetite for risk and opening the hospitality sector in an informed, safe, and sustainable manner. It was the considered policies and actions of this administration that gave investors, hotel and villa owners, and restaurant owners the confidence to reopen, and that brought American Airlines and other airlines back to our shores to increase airlift. Madam Speaker, I wish to thank the health team, the portal team, the Department for Information Technology and E-Government Services, frontline workers, and hospitality workers for their dedicated service during this pandemic to help keep Anguilla safe and reopen the economy. The 11th president of the World Bank, Robert Zoellick, once commented that there are many roads to prosperity, but one must be taken. Inaction leads nowhere. Madam Speaker, we must not repeat the mistakes of the past, allowing Anguilla to decay from passivity and negligence. This administration is here to get the job done, to make the difficult decisions and take decisive actions to restore prosperity to Anguilla. Madam Speaker, advancing through adversity is not just for government. For when they could not carry passengers, I saw the ferryboat operators offering tours and water adventures. And while the ferry service to Marigot remains suspended and hopefully will resume in short order, some of the ferries have started service to Dutch St. Martin. Innovation, Madam Speaker. Anguillians advancing through adversity. That is the true Anguillian spirit. This administration, along with the Ministries of Health and Infrastructure and Tourism, created protocols for day trips. This took some time, but required careful consideration for the health and safety of the country. And I wish to thank the ferryboat operators for their patience and understanding. COVID-19 has infected about 1,700 persons in Anguilla, Madam Speaker. Several have been hospitalized, and unfortunately, 5 have died. May their souls rest in peace. We witnessed the effectiveness of vaccination, which has decreased transmission of the virus and decreased the chance of severe symptoms, hospitalization, and death. And I want to thank all Anguillians who have taken the vaccine to protect themselves and those around them, and to encourage those who are still hesitant about the vaccine to be objective, seek credible advice, and get vaccinated. I also encourage parents to get their eligible children vaccinated so that the classroom can be a safe environment. Madam Speaker, we inherited a country crippled with high debt. Borrowing guidelines and debt service ratios were severely exceeded, and there were no reserves. This significantly impacted our ability to introduce policies which we had agreed on. Fiscal prudence and responsibility required that we could not advance unfunded policies such as subsidized health care for Anguillians 70 years and older. We had to curb spending, decrease contingent liability, decrease arrears, and make the statutory bodies more accountable. Advancing through adversity, Madam Speaker. But the numbers will show that we are on the right track to restore prosperity. Madam Speaker, we inherited a contracted economy with rising inflation due to increased cost of food, supplies, shipping, and fuel. However, the construction sector, residential, commercial, and touristic is on the rise, thus moving the economy in a positive direction. And due to the vision and hard work of the Honorable Minister for Economic Development, the single island-wide member, the Honorable Mr. Kyle Hodge, incentives were given for fishing, farming, and manufacturing, including duty concessions and exempt status for GST. These industries are now encouraged to become prosperous, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it is disheartening to discover that Anglec is having financial difficulties. Anglec, a good corporate citizen and a vital asset to Anguilla, enacted policies to help customers during the initial months of the pandemic and reduce the fuel surcharge to limit the increased cost of electricity at a time when customers were least able to pay. Given the essential service that Anglic provides, even in adverse circumstances and a tight fiscal space, the government of Anguilla made advances totaling $4 million EC to the Water Corporation of Anguilla and the Anguilla A&C Ports Authority to pay Anglic and decrease arrears. Madam Speaker, I am convinced that Anglic, despite this adversity, can be restored to prosperity. And that is why this administration is advocating for an urgent transition to renewable energy and the acquisition of the Water Corporation of Anguilla for both entities to benefit from a symbiotic relationship. Anglic is therefore encouraged to send out a request for proposal for renewable energy, which will lead to clean, lower-cost energy and higher-paying jobs. Anglic is also encouraged to continue negotiations with the Water Corporation of Anguilla, since the potential of a combined utility service is immeasurable. Speaking of environmental-friendly advancement, Madam Speaker, the Blue Anguilla, or BANG Task Force paper, which outlines the benefits of the blue and green economies, utilizing the 200-mile exclusive economic zone and exclusive fishing zone north of Anguilla in a sustainable manner, was ably presented by the Parliamentary Secretary, the Honourable Quincy Gums-Marie, at COP26 in Glasgow, Scotland, discussed with Lord Goldsmith, the United Kingdom Minister for the Environment, and tagged by Prince William, the Duke of Cambridge, in his remarks at a joint ministerial council. Madam Speaker, I'd like now to acknowledge the presence of the newest officer of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire, from the Secretary in the Ministry of Health, Mr. Mervyn Foster Rogers. Madam Speaker, the financial services sector has seen adversity over many years, culminating with Anguilla rated non-compliant with the OECD and being blacklisted by the European Union. This administration has enacted legislation to help get Anguilla off the EU blacklist, and the Ministry of Finance continues to work with the OECD to become compliant. Better ratings will give confidence to companies, investors, and regulatory agencies to register and do business in Anguilla. We are convinced that the financial services sector can be a viable pillar of the economy and lead to prosperity. Madam Speaker, we look into 2022 with a sense of optimism, not just because it's a new year, but because we are laying strong foundations, advancing through adversity, restoring prosperity to our beloved island, Anguilla. And Madam Speaker, with that introduction, let me present the economic review. In the 2021 review of the economy, Madam Speaker, in line with this year's fitting budget theme, it is worth quoting an aphorism from American evangelist Billy Graham, who stated that comfort and prosperity have never enriched the world as much as adversity has. Madam Speaker, the Anguillan economy has been facing adversity. Nonetheless, we have been striving to adapt and recover from the economic damage inflicted by the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. Madam Speaker, permit me to summarize the economic performance in 2021, as well as look ahead to expectations for 2022. In real terms, the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, the ECCB, projects GDP to grow by 1.04% in 2021, with a further consecutive 7.40% recovery this year, in keeping with positive global growth projections. Madam Speaker, Anguilla is a small open economy in a global playing field. Rising commodity prices in the United States and other countries means cost inflation for us here in Anguilla. It is said that if America sneezes, the Caribbean catches a cold. Maybe Anguilla catches pneumonia. Consumer prices were on average 2.08% higher than the same period last year. Madam Speaker, the economy is likely to operate below the 2019 or pre-pandemic level in these early stages while momentum builds. The slight growth in 2021 reflects a Herculean and hope-filled clawing back from the collapse in 2020 and is a function of improving employment, consumption, and investment. Due to subdued travel activity for 3/4 of the year at year's end, output in hotels and restaurants is projected to decline by 7% year over year. Residents, visitors, and business owners alike have all rallied around the restoration of our tourism sector. Today, there are encouraging indicators in bookings and airlift capacity, and I anticipate a strong tourism season. This is confirmed by the Minister of Tourism, the Honourable Hayden Hughes, the member for Road South. Madam Speaker, one niggling source of uncertainty around the pandemic's effect on tourism stems from the emergence of the new highly transmittable variant of COVID-19, Omicron, which can result in severe disease. I wish to say, Madam Speaker, correct that to say in increased transmission, but at this point in time, not as severe as Delta. This can be worrisome, especially as the winter months approach, and the recent global worsening of infection rates may result in a surge of waves across our key source markets. Activity in construction, along with wholesale and retail, saw the most significant increases over the course of the year, growing by 4% and 5% respectively. Madam Speaker, we can look around and see the uptick in construction of personal housing and tourism-related foreign-owned projects. Generally, other areas show broadly flat movements this year, and my government is cognizant that the business landscape in Anguilla relies heavily on in-person contact in their everyday operations, and precautionary health measures may have slowed traffic. But as visitor movements increase and the island shifts to a position of relative normalcy, this will translate to better business. Madam Speaker, addressing the immediate task of learning to live with the virus while laying the groundwork for inclusive growth and reinforcing resilience is a major challenge. However, my government remains committed to the restoration of prosperity in the Anguillan economy through setting strategic direction, taking initiative, and making the right investments. Last year, I put on record in this Honourable House that my administration will be working diligently to attract and deliver investment, and I wish to reaffirm it. This theme, advancing through adversity, restoring prosperity, will not only be a theme for the 2022 budget, but a covenant by this administration alongside my resilient and courageous Anguillan people not to stall, but to advance our economy. The 2021 Fiscal Review. Madam Speaker, I will now provide a brief synopsis on the 2021 fiscals for revenue, expenditure, and debt. For 2021, the recurrent revenue had an estimated year-end outturn of $263.3 million EC dollars, which is a 12.47% increase in comparison to the 2020 collections of $234.09 million. However, as at December 31st, 2021, recurrent revenue outturn was at $263.65 million EC dollars, which is 1.47% over the 2021 budget estimate of $259.82 million. It is important to note that included in the revenue receipts is $16.25 million from the United Kingdom government in respect to COVID-19 financial aid. The government of Anguilla is thankful to the United Kingdom government for its ongoing support. This increase in recurrent revenue outturns was due in part to recoveries in the performance of the economy in key sectors. For example, the interim stabilization levy collections total $15.99 million. a 2.36% increase above the estimate of $15.62 million. Accommodation tax also performed above estimates with collections of $19.44 million, that is 40.05% above the estimate of $13.89 million. Also, stamp duty performed well above the budget estimate of $21.40 million with an actual outturn of $28.02 million, which is an increase of 30.92%. Madam Speaker, I must at this point express my gratitude to all the hardworking staff in the Ministry of Finance, as well as recognize the management and staff at the Customs and Inland Revenue Departments. Once again, you have delivered for Anguilla in these challenging times. We will continue to rely on them as our work is far from over. Madam Speaker, recurrent expenditure performance for 2021 was expected to be $213.34 million. However, as at December 31st, 2021, the recurrent expenditure outturn was $213.99 million. This estimate of $13.37 million less than the budget estimate of $226.71 million, and the actual outturn is $12.72 million less than the budget estimate. This result was accomplished through the prudent financial management of the public resources. Civil servants must be commended for their efforts in this regard, Madam Speaker. During this financial year, there were 2 supplementary appropriation budgets that were approved to reallocate expenditure savings to areas of critical need, including the clearing of specified outstanding obligations. It is important to note that these supplementary budgets did not change the approved budget total. And I wish to thank the House, the members of the House, for passing those supplementary budgets, Madam Speaker. Some arrears clearing included the civil servants' deferred salaries of $2.34 million EC dollars, which is half of what was outstanding. Contributions to the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court of $1.06 million, and contributions to the Public Service Pension Fund of $2.76 million. Madam Speaker, the recurrent balance, which is the difference between the recurrent revenue and recurrent expenditure, is anticipated to be $49.96 million. This equates to $16.76 million, or 51% above the $33.11 million that was budgeted. Capital receipts during 2021 are projected to total $3.78 million, a decrease of 62% in the capital receipts recorded for 2020. Receipts of note are $2.7 million from the European Development Fund Budget Support Program and $1.08 million from the United Kingdom Government Conflict Stability and Security Fund. Madam Speaker, capital expenditure for 2021 is expected to top out at $4.2 million compared to the $2.87 million originally budgeted. Supplementary budgets revise the capital budget upwards to facilitate the implementation of additional initiatives. Madam Speaker, project focus and expenditure for the most part was on those projects that either met continuing obligations or counterpart commitments with development partners. The high-profile developments under the Anguilla program were completed last year and into this year. On a smaller scale, we have been able to undertake a retrofit to the Clayton J. Lloyd International Airport to support the return of American Airlines and other airlines and to accommodate the safe arrival and COVID-19 testing of passengers. Several road improvements have eased the flow of traffic. Building renovations have been progressed to fulfill the commitment to install energy-efficient equipment and fixtures, and digitalization of payment systems have promoted efficiency of government operation and improved the ease of doing business. Madam Speaker, advancing through adversity calls for greater cooperation and local partnerships. Perhaps my favorite feel-good projects were the renovation of the People's Market, where we came together with the support of the St. Lucia Association to ensure that the repairs were realized. And we must thank Minister Kyle Hodge, the Single Island-wide member, for his initiative in that regard. And the partnership with Anguilla and Digicel to put network services underground. Madam Speaker, let us continue to work together with the goal of prosperity. Capital balance, Madam Speaker. Capital receipts in 2021 totaled $3.7 million, and capital expenditures projected to total $4.2 million. Capital financing from the Caribbean Development Bank loan to construct the Anguilla Community College totaled $0.72 million in 2021. The capital account balance, which is the difference between capital receipts and capital expenditure, is a deficit of approximately $0.42 million. Madam Speaker, government's overall fiscal position is determined by the sum of the recurrent balance, the capital balance. The recurrent balance for 2021 is expected to be a surplus of $49.96 million. The projected capital expenditure total is $4.2 million. The projected debt amortization is $32.82 million. Therefore, the overall balance for 2021 is expected to be a surplus of approximately $16.72 million. Advancing through adversity, Madam Speaker, restoring prosperity. Madam Speaker, preliminary estimates show that total public debt, which comprises of central government and government-guaranteed and non-guaranteed debt of state-owned enterprises, otherwise known as the statutory bodies, that is the general government debt, as at the end of 2021 is projected at $452.33 million, or 63.15% of GDP. At the end of 2021, central government debt stock is projected at $432.53 million, a decrease of $20.27 million over the 2020 debt stock of $452.80 million. Government guaranteed state-owned enterprise debt stock is projected at $3.04 million, a decrease of $1.67 million over the 2020 debt stock of $4.71 million. Non-guaranteed statutory body debt stock is projected at $16.76 million, a decrease of $2.65 million over the 2020 debt stock of $19.41 million. The projected decline in general government debt stock is due to projected scheduled amortization exceeding disbursements for the 2021 fiscal year. Madam Speaker, of the outstanding debt for the period under review, central government debt stock projections account for 95.63% of the portfolio, and government-guaranteed state-owned enterprise debt stock projections represent 0.67% of the portfolio, comprising of loans for the Anguilla Development Board. The non-guaranteed state-owned enterprise debt stock projections account for the remaining 3.70% of the portfolio relating to a loan and 2 public-private partnerships for the Water Corporation of Anguilla. Domestic and external debt accounts for 57.48% and 42.52% of the portfolio, respectively. Madam Speaker, during the fiscal year 2021, to support the implementation of the budget and to mitigate the effects of the pandemic, the government secured financing from the Caribbean Development Bank to the tune of $20.25 million EC dollars in the last quarter of 2021. This loan is the second in a programmatic series of 3 loans to support Government of Anguilla's reform program for restoring stability and building resilience to promote and sustain economic recovery and growth. The first policy-based loan in the series was disbursed in 2018 and aided in the restoration of fiscal stability and resilience building in the aftermath of Hurricane Irma. Disbursements during the fiscal year 2021 for the Anguilla Community College ACC project loan contracted from the CDB in 2014 is projected at $0.84 million. At the end of 2021, projected total disbursements on the ACC project loan amounted to approximately $6.57 million, with a projected undisbursed balance of $2.11 million. Existing lines of credit through the short-term facilities with the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank and the National Commercial Bank of Anguilla, NCBA, were prudently utilized for cash management purposes. There was no new borrowing or disbursements associated with government-guaranteed and non-guaranteed state-owned enterprise debt. Proposed new borrowing, $13.50 million EC, is projected for fiscal year 2022, where the Government of Anguilla will seek to secure Phase 3 of the Programmatic Stability and Resilience Building Policy-Based Loan, which was agreed to in 2018 to assist in the restoration of fiscal stability and resilient building. Madam Speaker, this planned borrowing will now be reconsidered in light of the exceptional end-of-year performance in 2021 and in taking into account budget performance during this year. We will not unnecessarily burden future generations by borrowing, except where it's essential to do so. Madam Speaker, the cost of servicing central government debt is projected to move from $46.58 million, that is amortization of $32.82 million and interest payments of $13.75 million in 2021, to $51.53 million, amortization of $35.68 million, and interest payments of $15.85 million this year. This represents an increase of 10.63% or $4.95 million, which is primarily due to the new debt contracted in 2021 and the expiration of a grace period on one of the CDB loans contracted in 2018. This government stands committed to managing debt service costs through prudent debt management. Madam Speaker, as you are aware, the Government of Anguilla is required to maintain public debt levels within 3 stipulated borrowing limits as outlined in the Framework for Fiscal Sustainability and Development, the FFSD, and the Fiscal Responsibility Act. The borrowing limits are that the net debt should not exceed 80% of recurrent revenue, and the debt service should not exceed 10% of the recurrent revenue, and liquid assets should be sufficient to cover 90 days or 25% of recurrent expenditure. Unfortunately, Madam Speaker, at the end of 2021, projections show that the government will continue to remain in breach of the borrowing limits. At the end of 2021, preliminary analysis shows that the net debt ratio is projected at 173.54%. That is over 100% of the required borrowing limits. The debt service ratio at 21.30%, which is more than double what it should be, and liquid assets at 0.24%, approximately 1 day of our recurrent expenditure. The debt to GDP ratio is 63.15%, which is 3.15 percentage points above the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, the ECCU, target benchmark of 60%. Fortunately, we do not have to hit that target until 2035, but it is the goal of this administration to come within the guidelines, the borrowing guidelines, at least by 2030, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, my government pledges our continued commitment to prudently manage Anguilla's debt portfolio, notwithstanding the adversity we inherited and now face. Madam Speaker, the recurrent expenditure estimate for this 2022 fiscal year is projected to be $224.58 million, excluding amortization of $35.70 million. This is 6.11% reduction, or $2.13 million variation when compared to the 2021 approved recurrent budget of $226.71 million. This is as a result of government making some critical decisions to deal with the current financial challenges in order to meet its overall obligations. Personal emoluments for 2022 budget is estimated at $89.60 million, resulting in a 9% increase, or $7.31 million difference over the 2021 approved budget of $82.29 million. This increase in part addresses statutory obligations under the Education Act to compensate teachers who attain enhanced qualifications, as well as increases provisioning to facilitate additional policing needs and additional personnel needs related to the Inland Revenue Department and the Customs Department that will lead revenue mobilization efforts. Retirement benefits show a slight increase of $0.47 million for the 2022 budget of $10.41 million when compared to the 2021 approved budget of $9.94 million. This is due to the number of persons attaining the age of retirement for this year. Interest payments, which includes both domestic and foreign, has an estimated budget of $16.09 million. This is $0.01 million increase over the 2021 approved budget. This increased sum is due to anticipated increases in the domestic variable interest rate. Goods and services resulted in an overall increase of $4.41 million, moving the 2022 budget to $60.16 million when compared to the 2021 approved budget of $55.75 million. This was mainly as a result of increases in provisioning for maintenance of buildings and roads, maintenance services related to electronic systems, insurance, and government-related goods and service tax expense from July 2022. Yes, Madam Speaker, the government will also have to pay the GST. Current transfers has an estimated budget of $48.30 million for 2022. This is a decrease of 17%, or $9.59 million below the 2021 approved budget of $57.89 million. Under this account, payments are made to statutory bodies, medical treatment overseas, public assistance, sports, youth, culture, and arts development initiatives. Under Her Majesty's Governor's Office and Departments, Madam Speaker, the 2022 recurrent expenditure budget is $30.61 million. This represents an increase of 3.9%, or $1.80 million above the 2021 approved budget of $28.81 million. This increase is partly due to the establishment of a new department, the Financial Intelligence Unit, additional professional and consultancy resources in the Attorney General's chambers, and additional offers for the Royal Anguilla Police Force and Her Majesty's Prison. Improved administration and delivery of public services. The impact of COVID-19 has signified the need to restructure and upgrade our processes in this new normal. Madam Speaker, public administration has embarked on a reinstitutionalization of performance systems, which will commence in January this month, as well as the championed digitalization of operations to improve timeliness of service delivery across the Anguilla Public Service. Last year saw the completion of policies relating to social media, home and remote working, flexible working hours, engaging in private and conducting workplace investigations. These policies will promote accountability, transparency, and integrity, whilst ensuring the appropriate processes are in place to provide efficient and effective delivery of public services. Public officers are required to adapt to change, shift their mentality, keep abreast with learning, and be responsible by adhering to the established policies and procedures. Madam Speaker, we must continue to hold public servants accountable and improve public sector performance while curtailing the growth in expenditure. Enhancing safety and security. Madam Speaker, my government stands firm in our commitment to tackling crime and criminality, and the recent incidences which have left families suffering have only served to heighten our conviction. The upcoming budget makes available additional funding to enhance the personnel complement of the Royal Anguilla Police Force to support their continued efforts to make Anguilla a great place to live, work, and invest. The Royal Anguilla Police Force policing strategy clearly sets the direction for policing despite evolving complexities associated with reducing crime, increasing police visibility, and investigating complex criminal offenses. The RAPF is committed to ensuring people get the best possible policing service. From listening to the concerns raised by local people and businesses, the RAPF will invest in frontline policing, pursue the most dangerous and protect those most at risk. The RAPF intends to introduce a new community policing team, identify resources to assist in providing border security, develop intelligence capabilities, and invest in training, technology, and equipment to pursue the most dangerous. Madam Speaker, enhanced policing efforts must be buttressed by rehabilitative programs to support and serve those incarcerated. We'll continue to improve prison facilities and programs. Her Majesty's Prison has recently adapted to the challenges posed by the pandemic restrictions through providing virtual visits for those incarcerated to communicate with family and friends. Madam Speaker, maintaining these social support networks is crucial in ensuring successful reintegration of incarcerated persons into society. In addition, the High Court has commenced the conduct of virtual courts utilizing video conferencing facilities, which allows for the wheels of justice to keep turning amidst challenges associated with the COVID-19 pandemic. Madam Speaker, in keeping with international best practice and standards, Anguilla has taken steps to establish the Financial Intelligence Unit, or FIU, as a separate department within the structure of the Government of Anguilla. The FIU will operate under a hybrid model with responsibility for the receipt, analysis, and dissemination of financial intelligence, as well as investigation of terrorism and financial crimes. The FIU plays a pivotal role in strengthening the jurisdiction's anti-money laundering and combating the financing of terrorism, AML, CFT regime, protecting the economy and the integrity of the financial system from emerging threats. Building disaster resilience. Madam Speaker, we are thankful to God Almighty that Anguilla has been spared within the 2021 Atlantic hurricane season. Amen. The team at the Department of Disaster Management continues to clearly focus on building pathways to resilience and disaster risk reduction, both as part of the Anguilla Public Service as well as within the wider Anguillan community. Efforts will continue to engage even further with social media personnel, use the wider array of available avenues to ensure the information is wide-reaching, and further develop a robust communication platform. The department will be leading the promotion of business continuity planning at all levels, which improve capacity to deliver services and continue operations following disruptive incidents. Madam Speaker, adversity is not a one-time occurrence. We will continue to face challenges, and through proper planning and preparation, we can continue advancing through adversity, restoring prosperity. The Ministry of Home Affairs has seen a slight decrease in the 2022 recurrent budget with a total of $8.51 million. This represents a decrease of 5% or $0.45 million when compared to the 2021 approved budget of $8.96 million. Promoting labor rights through targeted reforms. Madam Speaker, if we are to have a progressive economy and a progressive society, then labor must get its fair share of the returns of economic activity. To that end, we intend to implement minimum wage legislation this year. I'll repeat that, Madam Speaker. To that end, this administration intends to implement minimum wage legislation this year, 2022. Anguillan workers deserve the respect of a wage they can live on. We must also focus on occupational health, Madam Speaker. Consequently, amendments to the Labor Relations Act are intended to provide acceptable health and safety requirements and equal opportunity in the workplace for all. Another point of focus is that labor has long been neglected at the negotiating table in Anguilla, and consequently, this year we'll also be looking to implement a collective bargaining act for trade unions in the tourism industry as well as other sectors to allow for collective bargaining. Madam Speaker, we are sensitive to the perceptions of persons that an informal glass ceiling operates in Anguilla when it comes to job opportunities, particularly in the tourism sector. In order to address this, the Ministry of Home Affairs, in conjunction with the Labor Department, has undertaken a fundamental review of the understudy and career development policy in the tourism industry and will be enshrining elements of this into legislation. This is long overdue and will bolster the understudy requirements for work permits. In January 2021, the Anguilla Immigration Department implemented its online e-visa portal, which has allowed for the seamless processing of visa applications. For 2022, the e-visa portal system will be developed further, integrating other online processes in an effort to offer more improved services by the department. The introduction of an Advanced Passenger Information System, APIS, is intended this year. With direct commercial flights from the United States mainland into the Clayton J. Lloyd International Airport, the use of APIS will allow for even greater efficiency in the processing of passengers. We are also establishing a checkout booth at the Blowing Point Port that was delayed for 2021. This will allow for electronic capturing of passengers departing via the port and adds to enhancing border security and effective monitoring of persons. Madam Speaker, in keeping with our principle of improving the delivery of public services through digitalization, 2021 saw the Department of Lands advance the implementation of a Land Information System, or the LIS. The LIS will address existing deficiencies by replacing an antiquated paper-based system with a digital system that will enable the department to efficiently administer land matters, which underpin investments in our precious land resources in Anguilla. Building resilience through building regulations. Madam Speaker, as we all know, physical planning operates in a framework which goes back to the 1960s. Attempts to implement modern physical planning legislation has defeated all administrations in Anguilla since the adoption of the ministerial government system in 1976. Nonetheless, fundamental to building climate-resilient physical infrastructure is the adoption and enforcement of robust building codes. We will advance this pursuit by requesting that this Honorable House establish a committee to hold hearings on the subject revolving around legislation drafted by experts funded by the Caribbean Development Bank. The idea is that all sections of the community will be invited to give their views, which will be recorded, recommendations made, and a report submitted for the consideration of the Executive Council. Delivering reliable information. The Department of Information and Broadcasting plans to fully utilize new technologies, including investing in high-quality field cameras to improve visuals and further boost its online presence. These are underway. Radio Anguilla remains as the people's primary source of trustworthy news and information. Madam Speaker, the aim is to finalize the current constitutional and electoral reform process. We know that this process started in November of 2019, and prior to that, Our people have been consulted throughout this process with the town hall meetings held in all 7 electoral districts last year, both in person and with live streaming facilities to garner comments from those viewing online. Rich feedback was received, which will be taken into account. The new draft constitution will be brought to this Honorable House for debate before engaging the United Kingdom negotiating team. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land, Madam Speaker, and we have to get it right. The Ministry of Economic Development, Investment, Commerce, Information Technology, and Natural Resources and departments. The Ministry of Economic Development has for its 2022 budget $12.95 million. The increase of 10% or $4.24 million over the 2021 recurrent budget allocation of $8.71 million is due mainly to planned consultancy for an e-government policy, increased staffing for the Department of Statistics, and increased provision for maintenance services for various government departments' digital systems. Despite the economic shocks that Anguilla has experienced over the past few years, the Ministry of Economic Development, Investment, Commerce, Information Technology, and Natural Resources remains committed to its vision of a thriving economy for a sustainable future. In accordance with this vision, this year the Ministry will focus on developing a long-term national sustainable development plan to guide Anguilla's development for the next 20 years, and a series of initiatives designed to improve investor confidence in doing business in Anguilla, build economic resilience, and increase food production. With the development of a new investment promotion framework, the Ministry will establish mechanisms to ensure a more positive investor experience. An investment promotion online platform will be used to raise awareness of investment opportunities and fiscal incentives, and as a means of engagement with investors. The Ministry will actively support investors and provide guidance on navigating all of government's processes, which will be linked to the online platform, thereby ensuring a more timely and seamless experience. To support these efforts, Madam Speaker, fiscal incentives legislation will be introduced to the House, which will formally establish and standardize the incentives being provided by government as a means of attracting investment. Improving the ease of doing business and digitizing the delivery of public services. In addition to the efforts geared towards investors, there's much to be gained generally by improving the ease of doing business with government. Overly bureaucratic and manual processes can be off-putting for local business and overseas investors. As such, the Ministry will develop an e-government policy and strategy to provide an overarching framework and context for its e-government efforts. E-government is a pillar of economic transformation which involves digitalizing delivery of government services, programs, and information, creating methods to pay digitally for goods and services, including taxes, and removing silos from information transfer so government departments and agencies can share information, maintain records, and improve data flow. I thought I'd get more of applause from the audience, Madam Speaker. They certainly haven't stood long enough at the post office. In this context, the Department of Information Technology and E-Government Service, DITES, will continue to work with government departments and to offer more services online so that customers can transact business virtually. Additionally, DITES will increase its efforts to ensure that government employees have access to the technology and collaboration tools required for reliable, scalable, and flexible work. Economic resilience. The Ministry of Economic Development will adopt a multi-pronged approach to building economic resilience. Firstly, the Ministry will facilitate investment which diversifies the tourism product. The Ministry will encourage investment in marina development and work with investors to realize the commencement of marina projects. Additionally, the Ministry will propose legislation which facilitates the development of a high-quality, well-regulated gaming industry, which will provide additional opportunities for investment and cater to the diverse interests of our clientele. And further, by positioning Anguilla as a destination of choice for offshore tertiary education, the Ministry will actively pursue the development of medical schools and similar institutions, which will have positive spin-off effects on the economy. Secondly, the ministry will put measures in place to increase activity in other economic sectors. The ministry will actively pursue the commencement of an offshore fishing licensing regime as a means of tapping into the economic potential of Anguilla's blue resources. In furtherance of the goal of food security via increased local food production, expanded support will be provided to the agricultural sector in order to improve the methods of food production and the quality and volume of outputs by transitioning from traditional farming to more climate-resilient methods using technological innovation. And to complement the work on decriminalization of marijuana, the Anguilla Marijuana Commission will be established to develop a roadmap for the development of a sustainable marijuana industry in Anguilla. This will enable the growth of spin-off industries in which marijuana is converted for use in various products. Lastly, sound data must underpin all decisions and actions taken by government. As such, the ministry is committed to undertaking the Anguilla population and housing census this year, which was due last year, and this will provide critical information on the social and economic characteristics of our population. Significant resources are dedicated to the conduct of this census within the 2022 budget. The Ministry of Finance and Health and departments. The 2022 recurrent budget for the Ministry of Finance and Health is $101.10 million. This is 6.09% or $6.09 million decrease when compared to the 2021 approved budget of $108.09 million. This variance is mainly attributed to the discontinuation of the public assistance program for COVID-19 as the island reopened and persons have been returning to work. Improved quality and delivery of public health care. Madam Speaker, the Health Division of the Ministry remains committed to protecting and promoting the health of all residents of Anguilla. The work to repair, redevelop, renovate, and improve the health infrastructure which was damaged during the passage of Hurricane Irma has essentially been completed. The health services delivery capacity is now better than pre-Irma levels. The construction of the Western Polyclinic and the Valley Health Complex, upgrades at the Princess Alexandra Hospital, and renovations of the Welch's Polyclinic have all been completed. The ministry is currently working with the relevant authorities to advance the construction of a new dialysis unit and isolation ward at the Princess Alexandra Hospital. It is anticipated that construction will commence early this year and be completed by year's end. Again, I would like to thank the contractors and project managers, the Governor's Office, the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, the Ministry of Health, and the Health Authority of Anguilla for their commitment ensuring that the public health sector is resilient and developed in a sustainable manner. I'm sure that the former Minister of Health would like for me to thank him also, so we do. Thank you, Father of the House. Madam Speaker, 2021 has been an extremely difficult and tough year for staff at the Health Authority of Anguilla. They are the unsung heroes on the front lines managing the isolation ward, the laboratory COVID-19 testing, accident and emergency, respiratory triage, and the COVID-19 national vaccination program. The personal sacrifices of the Health Authority of Anguilla staff who have been working beyond their allotted shifts and across departments to attend to the medical needs of the population must be recognized. We owe them a debt of gratitude. Through assistance from the United Kingdom government, the Health Authority of Anguilla continued to implement infrastructure improvements with the renovation of the Princess Alexandra Hospital dietary unit, the upgrading and installation of a central sterilization unit with the latest sterilization equipment for ensuring that the Health Authority meets international standards, and the reprocessing of medical equipment and instruments. The procurement of a new digital GE X-ray machine funded by United Kingdom government, after decades of analog X-rays at the imaging unit of the Princess Alexandra Hospital, the commissioning of a new mobile X-ray machine, and the installation of a new oxygen bank donated by the Health Authority of Anguilla Foundation. All are initiatives we can be proud of in 2021. The upcoming year will see the climax of several policy initiatives as the Health Authority undergoes accreditation through Accreditation Canada International and the reintegration of primary health care services in all 3 health districts at the 3 polyclinics. The Health Authority will also pursue full-time psychiatric services in Anguilla for the first time in order to address mental health programs and services in a comprehensive manner. Madam Speaker, for the 2nd straight year, the seminal issue has been the COVID-19 pandemic. In the ministry, the last 2 years have been dominated with developing programs and providing human and financial resources to fight the SARS-CoV-2 virus. We are, however, confident that the strategies put in place by the Ministry of Health over the last 12 months have averted large numbers of hospitalization and death. And I think we should applaud the Permanent Secretary and the Ministry of Health, the new Mervyn Foster Rogers OBE, Chief Medical Officer Dr. Aisha Andrewen, and this administration for the policies put in place which have helped. Through the donation of over 20,000 doses of AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine and 5,850 doses of Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine, the government of Anguilla has been able to administer 10,117 first doses, 9,230 second doses to residents of over the age of 12 years, and 1,255 booster shots to residents over the age of 18 years. I would like to place on record our gratitude to the United Kingdom government for assisting in the provision of vaccines through its department and agencies. I also wish to extend my gratitude to the health services staff that enabled this mass vaccination effort. This level of coverage no doubt has contributed to the resilience of our people and economy as we advance through this adversity. However, Madam Speaker, I'd like to state that only represents 59% of the population that is vaccinated. And I'd like to see, and it is recommended that number should exceed 70% and 80% in some areas, depending on which variants we are exposed to. Madam Speaker, while the island has experienced ongoing local transmission of the virus since August 2021, this has not resulted in any major extended public health measure to restrict the movement of people or the gathering of persons in outdoor spaces, allowing for continued economic productivity locally and minimizing social disruption. Most cases have been mild to asymptomatic, with few hospitalizations and 5 deaths. The government continues to implement an aggressive testing, early detection, and quarantine or isolation strategy to limit the spread of the disease. As of the 20th of December, the government has conducted 57,196 real-time PCR tests and 7,342 rapid antigen tests since January of 2021. To maintain this level of testing capacity, the government of Anguilla, the Governor's Office, the government of the United Kingdom, and the Health Authority of Anguilla have worked synergistically in areas of procurement of lab equipment and supplies, recruitment of lab staff, and the collection of samples. And they should be commended for this, Madam Speaker. The government of Anguilla was assisted greatly with 3 doctors and 2 nurses from the Republic of Cuba, whose placement ended in March of 2021. This additional human resource in the clinical setting, public health, and quarantine was of great assistance to the government and the people of Anguilla, and I would again like to thank the governments of the United Kingdom and Cuba for this assistance. Over the last 2 years, the ministry has expanded approximately expended or spent approximately $12 million directly and indirectly in order to protect the public from the spread of COVID-19. This level of expenditure is not sustainable and diverts scarce resources from other government programs. It is critical that all residents do their part to ensure that Anguilla is protected from the pandemic so that we can get back to some normalcy as soon as possible. As the disease continues to test the resilience of the system, the involvement of all sectors of society in the national effort will become all more critical. Hence, this year, the ministry and the unit will focus on revitalizing the unit's mission while guiding workplaces and schools to develop sustainable actions to continue to navigate through the pandemic. Financial management and accountability. Madam Speaker, astute stewardship of public finances remains the focus of the Finance Division of the Ministry. I continue to call for prudence, fiscal responsibility, and accountability, and my ministry will be at the forefront of this agenda. The planned revision and update of the Financial Administration and Audit Act and the associated financial instructions, which was delayed last year, will be swiftly progressed in the first half of this year. Persons must be held accountable for how they spend public funds, which are duly supplied by the hard-working taxpayers, the people of Anguilla. In 2021, the public procurement framework was expanded to statutory bodies. Madam Speaker, some of these statutory bodies have been entering into contracts that were producing significant liabilities, in which the revenues could not sustain, with little demonstration of value for money. When these statutory bodies are unable to service these contracts, the burden falls on the people of Anguilla. This is not a state of affairs that my administration could accept. The procurement legislation was fully extended to statutory bodies, and we will continue to work to ensure the long-term sustainability of all the statutory bodies. Further work will continue in relation to the public procurement framework to improve the functionality of and increase public confidence in the procurement proceedings. The debt sustainability. Madam Speaker, I mentioned earlier that our debt service for this year is around $51 million. Debt service means what we pay in both physical and principal and interest payments. This equates to around a quarter of the government's recurrent budget. I repeat that, Madam Speaker. Our debt service equates to around a quarter, 25% of the government's recurrent budget. When we have to pay increasingly more to service our debt, it leaves little to spend on areas that improve our quality of life, such as education, health care, and community activities. This year, we will not spend $51 million on education. We will not spend that amount on health care. We will barely spend that on health and education combined. Think of the impact, the negative impact of that on society, Madam Speaker. Now, we will supply the Health Authority with around $20 million from the Consolidated Fund, which will support a little over 50% of their operating expenditure. But, Madam Speaker, we could do more. We could do better. It was not for this noose around our necks that we casually referred to as our debt burden. We must return our debt, which was built up over the years, to a sustainable path. And while our debt profile is projected to return to sustainability over the medium to long term, our debt servicing costs are projected to increase over the next 3 years. The government's ability to service its debt remains dependent on our fiscal situation. Madam Speaker, debt sustainability analyses indicate that we will only be compliant with target borrowing ratios in 2030, almost a decade from now. Think about the devastating effect that can have on our economy. Imagine facing the prospect of continued strangulation for an entire decade. Nonetheless, the return to sustainability requires prudence. In order to achieve this, my administration will continue to foster economic growth and increase revenue mobilization to aid in the restoring prosperity through prudent debt management. Fiscal consolidation and revenue mobilization. Our prerequisite for sustainable economic growth is restoring our public finances. Madam Speaker, expenditure curtailment, minimizing debt accumulation, and revenue mobilization remain the order of the day as detailed in our 2022 to 2024 medium-term economic and fiscal plan called the MTEF. In 2021, we were able to curtail expenditure to around $13 million below budget. This was not done through hiding arrears, but through prudent fiscal management. In fact, Madam Speaker, last year we were able to pay down around $6 million of arrears, some of which were accumulated since 2009. And we remember that in 2009, there was not a budget presented for the year 2010. We will continue to trim the fat as we right-size government to ensure the efficient allocation of resources for the delivery of quality public services. We will continue to strengthen our revenue collection systems to mobilize the resources necessary to fund public services. Madam Speaker, this 2022 budget equips our Inland Revenue and Customs departments, our lead revenue collecting agencies, with additional personnel resources for this task. But, Madam Speaker, this is not simply additional bodies to passively collect taxes from compliant and civic-minded citizens. These departments' strategic work programs will be based at enhancing voluntary compliance whilst curbing revenue leakages through targeted enforcement activities. We all must share the burden, Madam Speaker. And so when the pundits get on the talk shows and talk about that the personal emoluments will be increased by $7 million, and that will start probably this evening, Madam Speaker, we must understand that these are essential additional personnel in policing, in customs, in IRD, and also to pay the teachers who gain their certifications, Madam Speaker. So I'm just trying to clarify so that we don't have to explain this tonight and tomorrow when the pundits start speaking. Madam Speaker, I spoke earlier to the digitalization of the delivery of public services. This year, the Customs Department will forge ahead with the upgrade of the Asakuda platform, which will simplify processes and improve the ease of doing business. The Inland Revenue Department will continue with the digitalization of tax filings and payments through their recently launched online portal, improving the customer experience and making paying taxes simple and efficient. Madam Speaker, Anguilla's financial services sector continues to underperform as we are yet seeking to find a niche sector in this global competitive environment. The pressure to comply with international regulatory standards has curtailed our ability to exploit our current products, forcing us to explore new avenues. Madam Speaker, currently the Companies Act and the International Business Companies Act are in the process of being replaced and repealed by a new piece of legislation, the Business Companies Act, which will provide a modern, flexible companies regime catering to the needs of our international clientele, providing for structures such as the segregated portfolio companies, exempted companies, and restricted purpose companies. Madam Speaker, our new and highly secured bespoke company registration system is now a reality and is scheduled to launch at the start of 2022. The bespoke system is governed by its own piece of legislation and will also house the Beneficial Ownership Register, an initiative that will see Anguilla at the forefront of the global agenda in setting the standard for transparency of company ownership. The bespoke system provides services for both our local and international customers through a payment gateway. It provides real-time information and reports on the management of entities, thus helping Anguilla to be a viable choice for business. Madam Speaker, these new offerings will allow the financial sector to remain relevant and compliant. These are some of the acts, Madam Speaker, that are being put in place such that we can change our non-compliant status with the OECD and also continue being off the blacklist of the European Union. I must thank the Ministry of Finance, Marisha and Marissa, for their tireless service to make this happen. The e-commerce services, home shopping and e-zone at the General Post Office continue to experience significant growth due largely to the effects of COVID-19 pandemic. They contribute to 80% of total annual revenue collections at the General Post Office. During the period January to October 2021, the home shopping and e-zone services realized a combined 18% increase in revenue collection, 45% increase in new customer sign-ups, and a 21% increase in packages received when compared with the same period during 2020. Efforts will continue towards upgrading the digital systems of the General Post Office to modernize as well as improve efficiency, accountability, and performance. Such improvements will include introducing online payments and other web-based and mobile applications to meet customers' needs. The online payment facility will ensure customers could do business with the General Post Office in an efficient manner. Maybe this is where they were waiting to give applause, Madam Speaker. Thank you. Madam Speaker, the Pensions Act and the Social Security Act requires the conduct of actuarial reviews triennially, that is, every 3 years. Upon commencement of my administration term in 2020, I was presented with actuarial reviews of both funds as at the 31st December 2019. Given the concerning findings of these reports, I requested a further review of both funds as at the 31st December 2020. These reports will shortly be tabled before this Honorable House and formally presented to the people of Anguilla for their consideration. Madam Speaker, I must be candid. The pension fund and the Social Security Fund are in delicate states, but timely and responsible decision-making can avert the adverse state of affairs. The Social Security Board's estimates of income and current expenditure for 2022 anticipates a surplus of 5.2 million EC dollars before accounting for depreciation. The revised 2021 excess of income over expenditure is estimated at $9.3 million. This is despite the challenges of high levels of unemployment due to COVID-19 and the rise in sickness quarantine benefits. The higher surplus is also attributable to the outstanding performance of the board's investments in the U.S. stock market. However, I will not mislead this Honorable House. These surpluses are set against a backdrop of the fund being projected to be depleted between 2035 and 2038. The actuarial review finds that the fund is not financially sustainable over the medium and long terms at current benefit provisions and contribution rate. Madam Speaker, the time is now for frank conversations and difficult decisions. We will shortly be bringing this matter before the House and presenting these issues to the people of Anguilla. In keeping with efforts for advancing through adversity, restoring prosperity, the Social Security Board will continue to focus on implementation of its transformation multi-benefit solution, providing a new administration system and online portal services for improved service delivery to its customers. The strategic program will include developing a benefits funding policy as well as refocusing on alternative investments through reactivation of the board's investment committee. All of this will be as the Social Security Board celebrates its 40th year of operations, continuing to serve the people of Anguilla. Thanks to the father of the nation, the late Honorable James Ronald Webster. And Smitty, the ambassador from Island Harbor, who was the vote that brought it to bear. The Public Service Pension Board continues to administer the pension fund for the government of Anguilla and its agencies. My administration intends to ensure the sustainability of the fund through responsible and timely decision-making. The most recent actuarial review finds, and I quote, "With the current contribution rates and investment strategy, fund assets will be depleted in 2028 if no changes are made to contribution and benefits rules. 2028, Madam Speaker. That is just around the corner. This existing state of affairs is beyond my administration's tolerance levels. Firm and decisive action is required. My administration recently approved an increase in contribution rate for the employer contributions of the government and government agencies from 3% to 4% to take effect the 1st of January 2022. This contribution rate has remained untouched for the last 18 years. And given that the fund now serves almost 200 pensioners, and the fact that the pension liability continues to grow, some further changes in the rate of contributions are expected in the near future to ensure a proper financial balance, and will follow the requisite consultations with stakeholders. Madam Speaker, we will continue advancing through adversity, restoring prosperity to both funds, the Social Security Fund and the Public Service Pension Fund. The Ministry of Social Development and Education and departments. This has a 2022 recurrent budget of $48.11 million. This is a 7% or $3.50 million decrease over the 2021 approved budget of $51.61 million. The reduction in this ministry is mainly attributed to a reduction in the transfers and subsidies account. The Ministry of Social Development and Education will continue advancing through adversity while restoring prosperity. The ministry entered into a partnership with the United Nations Joint Program Fund. The fund will support programs and initiatives around youth entrepreneurship and innovation, social protection, shock responsiveness, and TVET, or technical and vocational education and training skills development in Anguilla. The adversity of COVID-19 demonstrated the need for shock-responsive social protective systems. As such, with sponsorship from UNICEF, the ministry undertook a major assessment of Anguilla's social protection shock response to the pandemic. The assessment findings will inform the development of a social protection management information system and assist in future planning. Madam Speaker, in responding to shocks, the demand for assistance with medical treatment overseas is spiraling even as we engage in these proceedings. The government's contribution to medical treatment remains significant and speaks to the need for a comprehensive national health fund. We have taken a first step in this process by making the former interim stabilization levy a permanent tax measure known as the Universal Social Levy. The next step will be ring-fencing these funds to provide for the healthcare needs of our people. This will have to be done in a considered manner when we can afford to do so. My administration will continue to treat this as a top priority. Developing alternative modes for delivery of quality education services. There's a renewed focus, Madam Speaker, on the delivering of quality education services to the people of Anguilla. I am reminded of a proposition of the great philosopher Aristotle, that education is an ornament in prosperity and a refuge in adversity. The Department of Education will proceed with plans to firstly strengthen the delivery of educational instructional services to students who speak English as a second language with the establishment of an English immersion program and employment of additional ESL specialist teachers. Secondly, we launch a national program to support students with special education needs post the compulsory school attendance age of 17 years. And finally, continue efforts to strengthen Department of Education focus on transitioning the education system to a blended learning modality that fully integrates technology into the teacher and learning process. These are the initiatives of the Honourable Minister for Social Development and Education, the member for Valley South, Madam Speaker. And this year we'll see the finalization of the revised Education Development Plan, the implementation of an education management information system and the e-learning platform, and the long-anticipated opening of the new Albina Lake Hodge Comprehensive School. we should applaud to that. Hopefully we can get rid of the split shift system, which has been present since Hurricane Irma. In 2021, the education sector welcomed major infrastructural improvements with the commissioning of the new Morris Vanderpool Primary School, as well as new blocks at Aurelia Kelly Primary School, the Valley Primary School, and the Adrian T. Hazel Primary School. We are thankful to the United Kingdom government for the funding made available for these projects through the Anguilla program. And the Anguilla Community College also commissioned a new site. Madam Speaker, social needs are exacerbated in times of crisis, but we must continue to ensure that social expenditure is efficient, continuing to deliver social programs to those most in need. The Ministry of Infrastructure, Communications, Utilities, Housing, and Tourism. This ministry has a 2022 recurrent budget of $23.24 million. This is a 13% or $2.73 million increase when compared to the 2021 approved budget of $20.51 million. This increase is primarily for maintenance of roads, buildings, training of firefighters, and a consultancy related to an energy management program. Madam Speaker, the Ministry of Infrastructure has revised its national infrastructure development initiatives, and for this year it intends to implement more structured road maintenance programs, whilst also spearheading an extensive maintenance program for Government of Anguilla assets. This cost-effective approach includes long-term planning using elements of renewable energy, whilst also strengthening systems' capacities to absorb and recover from various shocks and stresses. Madam Speaker, in order to advance through adversity, we must ensure that we have resilient systems. Sustainable energy sources and water security. The ministry recognizes the vulnerability of Anguilla as a small island developing state and is forging ahead with an inclusive approach to renewable energy and sustainable water supply, moving towards building a sustainable, climate-smart, resilient environment for the people of Anguilla. Madam Speaker, one of the pillars for restoring prosperity will be building a climate-smart, resilient economy, powered by a mix of renewable energy options with lowered energy costs and reduced carbon emissions. The Ministry of Infrastructure will accelerate investment in early-stage technology research and development for affordable, reliable, and efficient energy options, and works will be progressed to begin energy management improvements throughout the public service and Anguilla. The ministry will also enhance the sustainability and resilience of the public water supply in Anguilla through the development of a groundwater resource management plan and the integration of renewable energy resources for the improvement of private and public water access, distribution, and supply. Air access development. In the wake of COVID-19 and its many variants, advancing through adversity takes on a whole new meaning, Madam Speaker. And while the aviation industry has been dealt a significant blow, the industry remains strong and resilient as airlines are aggressively seeking new markets. Madam Speaker, we recently celebrated welcoming new transatlantic airlift from Miami to our shores by American Airlines. Since then, we have seen the rapid expansion in this service to now daily flights which will start in April of 2022. This is a strong signal of our tourism products' continued attractiveness. The island's economy is largely dependent on the ability to maintain these new routes and actively seek connectivity from various international and regional hubs, will prove to be a vital element that will aid in restoring prosperity to the people of this nation. Bold approaches are necessary to maintain safe skies and increase passenger arrivals into Anguilla. Madam Speaker, crumbling infrastructure not only impacts productivity and economic growth, but it also renders us increasingly vulnerable to extreme weather events. My administration continues to champion for expanded investment in sustainable infrastructure to support Anguilla's development. This year, the Department of Infrastructure will continue delivering the Carter Ray Boulevard or the Valley Main Road, which will upgrade the definitely time enough, Madam Speaker. And this will upgrade the main spine of transport within the Capital Commercial Center. Likewise, construction of the main feeder road to the new site for the Albina Lake Hodge Comprehensive School will be delivered. The 2022 budget significantly enhances provisioning for road maintenance by an increase of $0.5 million. The coming year will see the development of a change policy in relation to road maintenance and improvement programs, with a focus on reducing the number of unpaved roads in an effort to improve the entire road network system. Thank the Minister of Infrastructure, the member for Road South. The construction of the Blowing Point Ferry Terminal has commenced and is about 20% completed. Most of the schools under the Anguilla program have been completed and occupied, therefore providing the spatial capacity to ensure that our students can learn in a safer environment. Furthermore, the ministry will continue to respond to the needs of the government's aging infrastructure by employing efficient maintenance systems to sustain the life of the public infrastructure. Tourism market and development, Madam Speaker. What makes Anguilla destination ready? Lose the crowd, find yourself. Is the resilience of our people coupled with savvy and focused leadership. Amidst the global pandemic, Anguilla was lauded as the blueprint that guided how destinations should cautiously forge ahead with welcoming visitors through carefully considered protocols. Why? Because we took risks and stepped outside the box to restore our main economic driver, tourism. But the protocols were not the only ways in which we exhibited our chutzpah. When many islands balked at the notion of going back on the road in the face of COVID-19, Anguilla stepped out on strategic planning, armed with a marketing message, lose the crowd, find yourself, and waving the COVID-19 safe destination flag. This was a step toward restoring prosperity, Madam Speaker. But this is not the time for Anguilla to rest on its laurels. Though the threat of the Omicron variant is looming and it is impossible for us to gauge what this will mean for travel, what is certain is that we must continue to move forward. But how do we do this? By staying the course, ramping up our boots-on-ground marketing efforts, and through strategic partnerships with consortia, stakeholders, tour operators, and travel advisors. The Anguilla Tourist Board is traversing new territory and with an aggressive budget. They are being called upon to do more with less, with the renewed focus of regaining our market share, solidifying our place in the luxury arena, and increasing output in the hotels and restaurant sector beyond pre-pandemic levels, assiduously advancing through adversity, restoring prosperity, and providing jobs for our hospitality workers, Madam Speaker. I will now provide the recurrent revenue estimate breakdown, Madam Speaker. The recurrent revenue estimate for 2022 is $237.66 million. Taxes on international trade continue to be a significant revenue source, and we estimate to collect $48.9 million, which represents 21% of the total estimated recurrent revenues. Import duties are the largest driver of this revenue category. Taxes on goods and services account for 47% of the budgeted total recurrent revenue and is projected to be $112.44 million. Taxes on payroll and workforce, which includes the interim stabilization levy, now the universal social levy, are expected to generate $15.39 million, which is a slight decrease from the actual outturn in 2021, which yielded $15.4 million. Taxes on property is projected to bring in $7.9 million, which represents a 24% decrease over actual collections for 2021 of $10.41 million. Revenue from other sources, such as license on flight permit fees and domain name registration, is projected to total $1.5 million this year. Speaker, I will now speak a little on new tax measures which will be introduced this year. But first I want to expound on the purpose of taxation. Madam Speaker, any true assessment of the fairness of a tax system must be assessed alongside consideration of the spending it finances. The most essential reason for taxation is to generate resources needed by the government to deliver critical public services and to benefit society in general. Taxes pay for many of the things that are central to the function of our society and a sustainable economy, such as health care, schools, social services, police services, and economic infrastructure, to name a few. As responsible people say, we all have to pay. And as a former Minister of Finance and former Premier used to say, we have to pay our own way. And so we have to pay our fair share, thus enabling the government to generate sufficient resources to fund services of our society. In turn, the government's duty is to improve the lives and well-being of the people of Anguilla. Madam Speaker, taxation and justice are commonly debated concepts. It is incumbent on governments to invest resources prudently and be accountable to the citizenry. Madam Speaker, it is my administration's intent that to improve our tax system, making it simple, fair, and efficient. It is against these principles that we are asking persons to stay the course. We are asking persons to share the burden of funding public services, whilst we are ensuring there is a bedrock of protection for persons who are least able to do so, translating to the vulnerable and the elderly. Madam Speaker, there are two new taxes passed in 2021 which will come into effect in 2022, the Goods and Service Tax, or GST, and the Money Transmission Levy. We inherited the Goods and Service Tax because the first phase was implemented in October of 2019, contrary to popular belief on the other side of this aisle, Madam Speaker. As stated previously, the GST is a broad-based tax with a more predictable revenue and replaces 5 other taxes. The rate and threshold levels are set to have less effect on small businesses and the poor. GST will take effect in Anguilla on the 1st of July 2022 at a rate of 13% and a registration threshold of $300,000. Madam Speaker, I said earlier that we need to share the burden whilst protecting those who are least able to protect themselves. The GST has been designed in line with accepted best practices and principles, while still providing a bedrock of support for those who need it most, with targeted exemptions and exclusions through the exempted and zero-rated list of items. Essential food items such as bread and flour will not attract GST. Also, the revenue will be able to fund essential services, health, education, and social programs which benefit the vulnerable and the poor. Also, medical services and education services are exempt from GST, as well as the first 130 kilowatt hours of electricity, Madam Speaker. The Money Transmission Levy. Madam Speaker, in 2020, almost 38 million EC dollars left Anguilla via money services businesses such as Western Union and MoneyGram. This amount was even higher in 2018 at almost $50 million. These money service businesses are popularly utilized for the transfer of remittances, in particular non-commercial transfers of money by workers in Anguilla with familial ties abroad. Beginning this year, where money is transmitted outside of Anguilla via money services businesses, these transactions will attract a 2% levy on the principal amount of money transmitted. Madam Speaker, this is not an anti-foreigner tax. We are sincerely grateful for the contributions made to our economy by these workers who are part of the people of Anguilla. They live here. Undeniably, in our history, Anguillians have relied on seeking employment abroad and supporting loved ones back home through such remittances. This tax simply says, when you send $100 out of Anguilla, please leave back $2. So we can continue investing in Anguilla to benefit us all, so that we can continue essential services such as health, and education, which are accessed by all, whether you're Anguillan or not. This levy is anticipated to generate $830,000 in revenues. Now, the Universal Social Levy. I touched on the Universal Social Levy earlier, but this is not a new tax in the sense that it is the precursor was the Interim Stabilization Levy, which came into effect in 2011, Madam Speaker. My administration made two covenants to the people of Anguilla concerning this tax. Firstly, that this levy would be made a permanent tax measure, and this has now been done. Secondly, and I know in the audience is businessman Mr. Quincy Gums, who was helpful in designing this tax, Madam Speaker, and I'd like to give him kudos. Secondly, to reform this tax and advance the transition of this tax into funding universal health care, ensuring all persons have access to needed health services. Madam Speaker, I wish to repeat our pledge. This remains a top priority of my administration. The reforms will commence this year as we work diligently on restoring public finances so that this levy is no longer required to fund general public services, but can be earmarked specifically for national health insurance. Thank you. Capital revenue and grants. At this time, no capital grants or revenue are confirmed or programmed for this year. Madam Speaker, the capital expenditure envelope for this year is $2 million EC and will support the implementation of the Anguilla Population and Housing Census and outfitting of the Albina Lake Hodge Comprehensive School laboratories. While not inherited capital in nature, the implementation of the Anguilla Population and Housing Census is very critical. It is through this that we secure important information on demographic issues such as population growth rates, age structure, fertility and mortality, migration and urbanization, among others. These issues are central to Anguilla's development, Madam Speaker. Having access to high quality and reliable data will allow us to formulate evidence-based policies and plan for the development and prosperity of our country. I take this opportunity to encourage all to participate and engage with the representatives of the Anguilla Statistics Department on Census Day. Our other focus is to elevate the achievements of our development partnerships. We'll focus on filling any gaps that were not fully met under the Anguilla program. Of a high priority here is to equip the high school to meet the requirements of examination boards and to ensure that our children are certified to the highest standards. As we close out our territorial arrangements with the European Union, we express our thanks to them. We also pursue deeper engagement with the United Kingdom government. Madam Speaker, we highlight the recent Foreign and Commonwealth and Development Office announcement to fund projects that improve Anguilla's economic resilience and support recovery from COVID. Funds of up to £4 million will be made available during this year, and commitments of a similar amount is made for the next 2 years. The project selection and programming is underway, and we look forward to great opportunities for expansion of our education, health, and transport infrastructure. Our project will seek to support our strategic goals, and the aim of advancing through adversity and restoring prosperity dictates that we focus on building our resilience. Our social resilience through helping our people, environmental resilience where we address environmental opportunities and threats, and building our technological resilience that allows us to perform efficiently and offer better services to the customers that we serve. Madam Speaker, it is here that we'll make the great gains to restore our prosperity. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, and I know that I hear the sigh of relief from the gallery, Madam Speaker, Anguillians are a proud people with a strong sense of heritage and legacy. We were once the gem of the Caribbean, Madam Speaker, and with God's help and the support of this administration and the support of you, the people of Anguilla, Anguilla will regain that status. Advancing through adversity, restoring prosperity. Madam Speaker, people are seeing a silver lining and the dark clouds are passing by. The veil of darkness is being lifted and the spirit of obstruction is cast out. The Anguilla solution is one of economic stability, recovery, restoration, and sustainable growth leading to prosperity. That is economic resilience, Madam Speaker. That is the legacy of a strong and proud people. Madam Speaker, the outlook for 2022 is good. There are several development projects being negotiated, some of which I have mentioned in other settings. Of note, all memorandum of understanding signed with this administration must have a social project included. And there must be a bond or escrow account to cover Anguillan subcontractors so that they must be paid. No longer will the DCKs be able to come to Anguilla, make money, and leave without paying our contractors. Madam Speaker, we must develop our people and our communities. That is restoring prosperity. In last year's budget address, I said that to restore Anguilla's economy would require partnerships. Madam Speaker, we have a major partner, the United Kingdom. And with the United Kingdom government, we have developed a relationship of mutual respect with our commitment to financial responsibility, economic stability, and development of our people. And so I'd like to thank the United Kingdom government. I'd like to thank Her Excellency Delini Daniel Savaratnam, Governor of Anguilla, the Minister for the Overseas Territories, the Right Honourable Amanda Milling, and the Director and staff of the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office for developing and maintaining a good working relationship with this administration. We are grateful for the financial and technical assistance which had helped to fund and maintain essential projects and services, and for the vaccine doses which have helped to keep us safe. The grant of £4 million per year for 3 years to fund economic resilience projects showed the continued commitment and trust of the United Kingdom government and this administration. I'd also like to thank Government of Anguilla's United Kingdom representative, Ms. Dorothea Hodge, and her staff for the stellar work being done on behalf of Anguilla. Madam Speaker, we also have partnerships with American Airlines and the other airlines, including Cape Air and Tradewinds and Air Sunshine, which have increased airlift into Anguilla. We also have partnerships with our own indigenous airlines, Trans-Anguilla and Anguilla Air Services. And we are partners with the hotel owners who contributed to renovations at the airport terminal. The Richard Schultz Foundation donated laptops to the Department of Education and has committed to procuring an MRI scanner for the Princess Alexandra Hospital. Dr. Maha Suda and the American University of Anguilla, the medical school, for donation of computers to the library and setting up a learning center in Island Harbor. Mr. Tim Reynolds of Annie Villas for donating to the computer lab at the Vivian Vanderpool Primary School. And the St. Lucian community for replacing the roof on the People's Market pushed by the Minister for Economic Development. All good partnerships, Madam Speaker, which enhance the community and advance the economy. Madam Speaker, I wish to acknowledge and thank all who contributed to get us through 2021. I also wish to thank all who made this presentation possible: the ministers, the parliamentary secretary, ministerial assistants, the dedicated public servants, from all of the ministries and departments, especially the permanent secretaries and the principal assistant secretary from the ministries of finance and economic development. And you see their commitment, Madam Speaker. They have sat here through my diatribe and patiently. I want to thank you, the people in the gallery, people of Anguilla, here and abroad. For those of you present here in the gallery, in this honorable house, or those watching and listening on the various media platforms, I want to thank you for your patience and also the attention are noteworthy, greatly appreciated. Your interest and involvement in the work of your government and the future of your country is admirable. In the 2020 budget address, Building a Dynamic Economy, the then Minister of Finance quoted economist Joseph Stiglitz from his book, Power and Profits, Progressive Capitalism for an Age of Discontent, where he postulated that a transition to the service, innovation, and green economy will maintain jobs and opportunity, provide for better social protection, provide better care for our aged, sick, and disabled, provide better health, education, housing, and financial security for all our citizens. Madam Speaker, this is the economy we support, reverting to innovative and sustainable development projects. Actions by government, business, civic, and educational institutions must be coordinated to innovate, invest, create jobs, and raise incomes. I saw a WhatsApp going around recently which says that none of us is as good as all of us together. We can do better when we do it together. I agree with that sentiment wholeheartedly, Madam Speaker. And I would hope that going forward, that this can be the sentiment that pervades our land, that we work together united so that we can accomplish what is necessary as we advance through adversity and restore Anguilla to its rightful place of prosperity. Madam Speaker, governments deliver public goods that benefit all of society. Government must bring along the private sector and encourage new investment. Small businesses, medium enterprises, these are the engines of society, and government must put in place the mechanisms so that these flourish. We must ensure equal opportunity, a level playing field with fair regulations and open competition for contracts. We must not favor who you are, who you know, or where you come from. I remember the song that famously says, "Kisses come by favor." We cannot tolerate that in the new Anguilla, the Anguilla reimagined. We must make technology more accessible, boost creativity and critical thinking, and inspire each person to reach their full potential. Madam Speaker, while last year's budget was about sacrifice, this year's budget is about hope and prosperity. As we continue financial responsibility, prudent spending, and sustainable economic growth, we must rise above adversity, become transformational leaders, not defined by challenges and obstacles, but by our commitment, our determination, and our inspiration. Henry Ford said, "When everything seems to be going against you, remember that the airplane takes off against the wind, not with it." And while we sail on the APM ship with the wind at our backs, sails full, jibs tucked, we are moving in the right direction, onward and upward, Madam Speaker. And we must realize that we're all in this boat together. So although challenges appear daunting, make them springboards, not roadblocks. Madam Speaker, as we move forward restoring prosperity and Anguilla's good name, I beg to move that a bill shortly entitled A Bill for Appropriation 2022, Act 22, have its second reading. Thank you.
Madam Speaker, I rise a second.
Thank you, members. Is there a date set for debate? Yes? Yeah, okay. So the date set for the debate for the budget would be on the 11th. Yes? Okay. 11th and 12th, yeah.
So private members' bills, none. Private bills, none. Other orders of the day? Adjourn.
Just to acknowledge the presence also of former chaplain of the house and staunch member of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, elder, community elder, Mr. Clive Smith. Welcome. Yes. Yes.
Adjournment.
Madam Speaker, I rise to beg that this honorable House be adjourned until Tuesday, the 11th of January, 2022 at 9 a.m.
Madam Speaker, I rise to second.
It has been moved and seconded that this honorable House stands adjourned until January 11th at 9 a.m. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. This honorable House now stands adjourned until January 11th at 9 a.m. Thank you, members. God bless you all.